Hi guys, my name is Arisa and welcome to another video. You might know me from my Instagram at Saturn Revolution, or if you're new here, welcome. I'm a full-time astrologer and content creator on Instagram and newly here. And thank you for your patience when it comes to posting the next video. I'm finally into my rhythm again after the holidays and I'm ready to talk to you again. And I'm very excited for what's to come. In this video, that's what we're talking about. We're going to be talking a lot about phases and rhythm and how to align to your natural rhythm rather than go against it. Before I begin, one spot for the astrology Bali trip that I'm organizing in May has been open, so someone couldn't join us anymore, which means that I have a $200 discount voucher that I want to give away. So if you've been wanting to join this trip, this is the best time to do it because we are approaching the deadline, and also we need one more person in order for the trip to happen. Like, a lot of us are wanting to book our flight tickets and so on. If you've been contemplating about it, the voucher is going to be in the description. You can also DM me if you have any questions, and there's also more details there if this is the first time when you're hearing about it. So I hope to see you there. Today's topic is inspired by my new offer, the Lunar Temple. In 2025, I'm going to be hosting a Zoom call every new moon and every full moon. And you are welcome to join whenever you want. If you want, you can either get the monthly pass where you join both calls, or you can get the single pass where you join only one call, just to see how it is to dip your energy into it. And we already had the Cancer full moon call, but the Cancer full moon is still sort of lingering and happening as I'm filming this. So my recommendation is to go and get the recording, and if you want, also sign up for the upcoming new moon meetup. The moon in astrology is associated to our nurturing side, our intuitive side, our emotions, and the way we really can connect with ourselves in depth and go inward. It's basically how we feel on the inside, while on the outside we portray our sun sign. And a lot of times, if our moon sign is the same as our sun sign, that means that there are sides of that sign that we are sharing to the world and sides to that sign that we are keeping for ourselves. We'll talk about our moon sign, which is obviously very important, just as the house that we have the moon in is very important. However, not a lot of people talk about the moon phase that you were born under, which adds an extra layer of unique energy to your moon sign and house. For example, if you are an Aries moon with the moon in the 8th house and you were born on a full moon, then you express your emotions and you navigate your emotions differently than if you have an Aries moon in the 8th house born on a new moon, right? The moon phase that you were born under is carried with you throughout your life, just like the sign that your moon is in or the house that your moon is in when you are born. So it is part of your expression, and specifically your emotional expression. Thing is that because we are not accustomed or familiar with the moon phase that we were born under, sometimes we tend to have a different emotional behavior, and our reaction is to judge it. Our reaction is to criticize ourselves, when in reality, when you are becoming a little bit more aware of the moon phase you're born under, you're becoming a little bit more compassionate with yourself, and you're learning how to go with the flow, or that would be my recommendation, and to intuitively trust these emotional hints that you're getting instead of trying to go against them or instead of judging them. Usually, we talk about the new moon and the full moon because those are culmination points. But in reality, there are also other moon phases in the sky. And another reason why it's great to identify the moon phase you're born under is because you can know that whenever that moon phase is coming up, which happens once a month, right? That is a time when you feel most connected to yourself. That is a time when you can tap into your emotions best. That is a time that is your time because you are in the same phase that you were when you were born. So you feel most familiar then. So starting to observe when that moon phase happens and how you feel personally about it is going to show your rhythm around those times so you could actually utilize it in coming up with new ideas or initiating projects, depending on the energy that this phase has for you. Calculating the moon phase that you were born under can be a little bit technical sometimes. It is easier when it's the new moon or the full moon because that indicates either a conjunction or an opposition. So my recommendation is to just use a moon sign phase calculator. So I am going to provide you with a link below. You can pause the video, calculate the moon sign you were born under, and then come back to the video for your interpretation. There are a total of 8 moon phases, so it's quite interesting to observe how it goes. And I do like to start off with the new moon because that usually indicates new beginnings. So if we take a look at the new moon, we can see that the moon is slowly growing and illuminating more as it gets to the full moon when it's full. And then it starts to get darker and darker as it gets to the new moon again, which is empty or dark, right? So looking at this, you can have a visual or an understanding of the moon phases. And logically, if you think about it, you can already tell that, okay, so people that are born on a new moon, they are more likely to start new things or more focused on the beginnings. And then people that are born around the full moon are more focused on endings. And then people that are born in between, they're more focused emotionally on in these in-between stages. And we are going to see what those are. Let's start with the new moon phase. A new moon happens when the sun is in a conjunction to the moon, meaning that the sun and the moon are likely in the same sign. So a quick way to know if you are born on the new moon is if your sun sign and your moon sign are in the same sign. The new moon represents new beginnings. It represents the energy of starting anew. This means that you are always excited to start something new. You always love to share new ideas. But the thing with this energy is that it's so far away from the full moon, which is the ending, the culmination, that sometimes by the time you start something and then by the time you get to end or finish something, you get bored. So you tend to get bored pretty easily and have an easier time starting things than finishing them. This is why it's really important to have newness in your life. And this starting something new is the thing that helps you to keep going. So it's quite interesting, and it is a little bit of a paradox because at the same time you want to start something with the goal of finishing it, but then the more you work on it, the more you want to start something new. So this means that you're really good with beginning stages. You might be someone who would be very suitable for creative fields or fields that really require you to kickstart something, especially to come up with concepts. Or you might have more hobbies and you might like to change them around to explore different career paths. It's not about changing the way that you are because this is your nature. It's more about embracing it and trying to find ways, activities, jobs that really resonate with the way that you are. Another crucial thing about the new moon phase is the power to manifest, which is heightened for you. So you really have the ability to manifest anything in your life, but don't forget to also enjoy it while you're there and after you have manifested the thing. In astrology, this aspect of the new moon is the sun in a conjunction to the moon, which means that the sun and the moon are always working together. The sun having to do with your identity and your self-expression, and the moon having to do with your emotional expression means that you're always needing to be on the same page when it comes to your identity and your emotional expression in order to go forward with something or in order to feel like yourself. So whenever you feel like your identity or self-expression is a little bit off, like you find it hard to know who you are, you feel a little bit lost, it could be that there are some lingering emotions that you haven't really processed or you haven't really expressed, which is keeping you from stepping into yourself or this new side of yourself. You might also have a great sense of reinvention, like you have the ability to change your identity often, or you like to experiment with new styles or new ways of self-expression. Combining this moon phase with your moon sign and house will really help paint the full picture. So I interpret this in my celestial blueprint reading. If you're interested, the link is in bio. The next one is the waxing crescent moon. Waxing means that the moon is growing, so we are at the point right after the new moon when we have taken the first step. We are starting to see things going, we are starting to know the direction where we're going towards, and we are starting to act on our ideas. This is when the sun and the moon are in a semi-sextile aspect in astrology, which means that there is a lot of opportunity around. Things are not fully clear yet, but there is a lot of possibility on the horizon. This means that in life, you are always presented with opportunities and you are the one who gets to choose which one you want to pursue. This is not really about which one is right or which one is wrong, but it is a lot about trial and error because you are in a phase that you were born under in which there are a lot of unknowns yet. So basically, it requires a lot of faith that you're making the right choice. And if the right choice doesn't turn out to be what you're wanting, then you can always just change your decision or go on a different path. Because of this, you might develop a fear of missing out. So it's important to know that you don't have to try everything before you can be satisfied with where you are at. You might a lot of the times feel a little bit agitated or a lot of the times want to jump from one thing to another. So it's really important for you to ground yourself in the present reality and take things step by step before you figure out how those things relate to you. This is also the phase in which the moon starts to separate a little bit from the sun. They're not in a conjunction anymore. It means that your emotions are going forward. You're going to feel like you are having this instinct to act on something, and it's usually real, but sometimes your self-judgment or rationality is going to come forward a little bit later. The more you're maturing and growing, and you're really getting to a point where you're becoming so self-aware that you know what is for you and what isn't. You might do really well in jobs that require the first step, such as having your own startup, because you're the one who is willing to go first. Combining this with your moon sign and the house that you're moon is in is creating your own unique blueprint. So if you're interested for me to interpret that, I do that in my celestial blueprint reading, and the link is in bio. Then we continue with the first quarter moon. The first quarter moon is the phase in which half of the moon is illuminated and half of the moon is still dark. It's in between the new moon and the full moon, exactly in the middle, but the moon is slowly getting more and more illuminated. This is a phase that feels in between. It's neither within the new moon phase nor within the full moon phase. So this is why emotionally you might also feel in between, and you might sometimes struggle with decision making. Astrologically, this is the phase when the sun is in a square to the moon. Squares represent difficult aspects, which means that emotionally you might sometimes struggle to know exactly what you are feeling, or a lot of the times your life might feel a little bit challenging and you are needing to come up with solutions within those challenges. The good thing about this moon phase is that you might have the ability to see both sides of the coin because you're in the middle, which makes you a really good mediator or someone who is really able to come up with quick critical solutions that are needing in times of division. The paradox here is the fact that you struggle with making decisions, but at the same time, with this square energy, life circumstances are going to push you in situations in which you need to make a decision. So slowly, it's all about learning how to trust yourself in life. Another interesting thing about squares is that they are challenging aspects that really push us forward. So you are one of the most ambitious people because the circumstances around you are pushing you to be ambitious, if that makes sense. And a lot of the times you might strive for balance to the point where you strive for perfectionism. But the key here is to remember that it's not about finding balance outwardly. So it's not about fixing the problem outwardly or fixing others first. But first, it's about finding the balance within and working on understanding yourself in order to be able to also build on the external world and express that outwardly. You might actually be good in working in jobs that require you to problem solve or to mediate. You might be good even being a leader where you have to kind of make decisions for others. But it's really important that the job that you're working in is challenging enough in order to push you to make specific decisions. If you're working in a job that is boring or repetitive, you might really get stuck in your own loop. Next is the waxing gibbous moon. The waxing gibbous moon is the moon phase right before the full moon where we are reaching a culmination. So because of this fact, you might sometimes feel emotionally like you prefer to wait until almost the last minute in order to express your emotions. So sometimes you get to a point where you need to be like, okay, I've had enough, and that's only when you decide to act or you decide on what to do next, as opposed to doing it early on. Or it might just feel like a lot of the times you are looking around you, you are trying to see, okay, what is the next thing that's coming up? Like, I'm ready. Like, when is that transformation? When is that change? Where is that fear coming? Like, it feels like you're almost always trying to be on the edge just because you know that something is about to come up at some point. It's really important to find grounding energies around you that help you feel a little bit more peaceful and not like you're supposed to be waiting for the next wrong thing to happen or even good thing to happen at all times. And your intuition is not wrong because a lot of the times, considering that you are right before the full moon when there's a culmination, intuitively, you might actually sense when something is about to happen or something is about to come up. So it's good to listen to your intuition, but you don't have to always be on edge because of it. The moon and the sun are in a trine with each other, which is a positive aspect. Trines usually represent gifts. So that means that you are a very talented human being. You hold a lot of gifts and you are really able to tap into those gifts quite easily. So you might sometimes be told that you are very talented in one thing or multiple things, maybe even without practicing. The thing with trines is that sometimes we tend to take our talents for granted because we are scared of this self-expression. So just know that the more you wait when it comes to expressing your talents, putting yourself out there, being seen, the more it gets harder to do these things. You might actually be an artist or has a lot of talent but finds it a little bit hard to get to that culmination point of putting yourself out there fully. And it's no right or wrong. It's just about doing it as quick as possible rather than waiting for the perfect time. Trines also provide a sense of flow and harmony, and because this is all happening before a culmination, you are also someone who likes to perfect their work, or you are someone who likes to adjust their work before you put it out there. Putting together your moon phase with your moon sign and the house that it's in creates the full picture though. So if you're wanting to get a personalized interpretation of that, my reading Celestial Blueprint is available in bio. And we finally get to the full moon phase. The full moon phase is the time when the moon reaches a culmination. It's a time when our emotions are being expressed outwardly. It's a time when we feel our emotions intensely. So this is why you might be someone who feels their emotions very intensely, and oftentimes it's guided by their emotions. You might be someone who's very empathetic, but also you hold a lot of depth to your emotions, and that makes you somewhat mysterious. People might have a hard time figuring you out, and you usually like to open up or be vulnerable or get closer to people that give you a sense of trust and security. And this could also be because maybe in the past you have went through a lot of emotional shedding, a lot of emotional transformations or changes, which has created almost this sort of like a paranoia in relation to other people. So it's important to obviously be careful who you open up to, but at the same time, sometimes you might be dramatizing. So don't forget to also ground yourself and don't jump to emotional conclusions too soon, because a lot of the times the things that you are feeling might be 10 times more than what is actually happening around you. You tend to take on other people's emotions as well, because these are like all the phases before you that have gathered the emotions and have gathered, and you are the culmination of that, right? But because you are the culmination, and this is where the paradox comes in, this is also you being able to release those emotions. So it's really important for you to have outlets where you can really express, release your emotions, such as hobbies, artistic hobbies, or exercising, maybe using your voice in some way, maybe journaling, maybe talking about your feelings. And you really have the power to make everyone stop and take a look at you or listen to you whenever you share from your heart. Like, I feel like you're really good at storytelling. So you might be a writer, or you might have a great capacity of explaining and expressing yourself vulnerably. And whenever you do, people really get to empathize with you. But because you tend to sometimes hide this side of you, that's when it becomes a little bit harder for those people to open up with you. And also it builds a wall between you and your self-expression. So try to balance out how much you let out and also how much you keep for yourself. This is a phase when the sun is in an opposition to the moon. So your sun sign and moon sign are in opposing signs, and that's likely where you are born on a full moon. You might be dealing with inner contradictions. You might feel like you want to be in a stable relationship at the same time as you might feel like you want to go out and explore. You might feel like you want to live in your home space at the same time as you might feel like you want to live abroad. The key here is not to choose one or the other, but to find a balance and a middle ground. So instead of choosing to leave a relationship, for example, maybe the answer is you can find an adventurous energy within the relationship. Instead of choosing to move abroad, maybe you can live in a different country for 3 months, a year, and then come back home. You have a lot of inner strength and power, and you are made to shine. But the more you try to keep yourself in a shell, the harder it's going to be to do that. So don't forget to allow your power to be seen by the world. So the moon sign together with the house and the moon phase creates the full picture. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I interpret that in my reading Celestial Blueprint. The link is in bio. Now we're starting to relax after the full moon. So we are getting into the waning gibbous moon phase. This is the phase right after the full moon. It represents the stage right after a culmination of something, when something has happened and now we need to retrieve ourselves. Now we need to reflect on what happened. Now we need to figure out, okay, what worked, what didn't work. You're a very reflective person. You like to look around you and analyze or observe the things that are happening, and most of the things around you hold a deeper meaning. You do like to look inward. You do like to observe and understand, okay, what is the deeper meaning behind this? And most of the times, whenever you undergo some sort of a change, some sort of a thing that's happening into your life, you're looking at it from the perspective of, okay, what did I learn? What is the lesson here? What can I implement from here? Because of this way of looking at things, people really appreciate your insights. You might really be the therapist of your friends group chat, or you might really be the person who guides others. So you are the one who could pursue a career in spirituality, or to be a mentor, or to be a coach, to be a psychologist, to be a therapist, or to be a guide for others to go forward, because a lot of the lessons of the world, a lot of the insights of the world are coming towards you. So you act as a messenger. You have the answers, or at least it seems like you have the answers, even if deep down sometimes you feel like you don't. A lot of the times you're going to realize that the answers for anything that you're looking for are within yourself. And even if you don't realize them head on, you might realize them, especially after some sort of a change. Like whenever there's a change happening, right? Like that was the full moon that happened. You get into this reflective mode and you're able to realize why the change happened in the first place. But you cannot really tell why it happened while it's happening. So it's really important for you to not discourage yourself while certain things are happening until you know the reason why that happened. When things are settled down, after there is the chaos comes the reflection, the wisdom. In astrology, the moon here isn't a trine to the sun. Trines represent gifts, and looking at also your phase, we can interpret this as you being able to really tap into your inner gifts and inner wisdom, but also being able to tell other people about what their gifts are or just know their potential. You might meet someone new and you might see their potential before you see who they really are or the energy that they actually embody. And sometimes that might disappoint you because you fall in love or you attach yourself to a potential which is not rooted in reality. So it's important to not necessarily try to fix the other person or get in the way of that person's self-development unless they really want you to. Don't be shy of sharing your insights. And if you want to know how this all plays a role together with the sign your moon is in and the house the moon is in, I'm doing a reading called Celestial Blueprint in the description. Next comes the last quarter moon. This is the phase in between the full moon and the new moon. We are not fully within the full moon, but we are also not fully within the new moon. We are in the middle, in between. So this can create a sense of being at two places at once, but also a sense of wanting to rush towards a new beginning. So wanting to rush towards starting something new. The difference between this moon phase and the one that is in between the new moon and the full moon is the fact that you're still in a reflective phase, and you are past the reflective phase where you have learned the lessons. You are past the reflective phase when you have just figured out why certain things happen, and you're starting to form your own opinions around this time. So you have a great ability to emotionally detach yourself from whatever is going on, even around the full moon or around the new moon, because you're neutral. And with that neutrality, you have the ability to come up with a lot of innovative insights. So you might be the one who questions the status quo. You might be the revolutionary one. You might be the one who is really able to come up with these unique ideas or to come up with these opinions that make other people really maybe even be shocked or be taken aback by what you're saying. But you have a great ability of seeing things from a different perspective. Because of that, you might also be someone who is able to befriend a lot of people around you or to adapt to the energy of those around you, because again, you're neutral, right? So you are able to just connect with those around you. The thing is that a lot of the times that can make you a little bit unsure of how you feel. At the same time, you are releasing the past as you are looking forward to or romanticizing the future. So it's really important to understand that your ideas and opinions, while they are very, very revolutionary, a lot of the times they can also be a little bit idealized, and you need to start to plan things out, or you need to start to create some sort of a system for those ideas to actually work in real life, rather than just rely on this newness that you have or this authenticity that you have, which is great. But in order to anchor it into reality, because you're more of a dreamer, you have a strong imagination, create some actionable steps or plan ahead. It's really important for you to sometimes stop and release and let go of the things that are not serving you before you are going towards the next energy. Same time, this calls for checking in with yourself and making sure that emotionally you also take care of yourself, or emotionally you connect with yourself and you feel your emotions as well, and you're not just always trying to take on this outer detached persona or personality. I feel that you would work best in humanitarian careers or humanitarian movements, or maybe movements that require more of a sense of community as well. Last but not least, we have the waning crescent moon. This is the phase right before the new moon when we can feel that new energy is being created, so we feel excited, but we are not quite there yet. It's almost as though you have to get ready for a party, but the party doesn't start until 5 hours from now. So what do? Do you decide to take a nap? Do you decide to, what do you do with that time, in between time in which you basically have to wait? Sometimes, because you're in this phase, you might feel a little bit impatient, like you want to just jump to the party, or you just want to jump to the next thing. The good thing about it is that you have this time for yourself that you can utilize. You really have the ability to take this time for yourself. It's a good time to rest. It is a good time for us to just connect with ourselves inward and to spend time with ourselves. So you might be someone who is more independent, or someone who is very much attuned with their solitude. And in solitude is when you can make better decisions. In solitude is when you can connect with your emotions. But the more you try to jump to the next thing, the more you don't allow yourself to really come up with that inner insight and wisdom that you have. This is the time when we are preparing for a new beginning. Because you are within this period where you're almost there, and it almost seems like there's a new beginning, but you don't know what the new beginning is. Your moon phase requires a lot of faith. Emotionally, whenever you're feeling a little bit anxious or scared or stressed, it's really important to connect with your intuition and to make sure that you keep on going, because you're almost there. And sometimes that makes you want to give up right before you get there. So whenever you feel like giving up, try to go a little bit more, because it could be that it's your manifestation, whatever you're wanting to do, it's right around the corner. Because you don't know, you're in the unknown, you're likely to go towards spirituality. So this makes you a very spiritual person. This makes you be someone who, if you're able to tap into that sweet spot, you're someone who really knows how to live in the present moment. People come to you to really ask you, oh, how were you able to be so relaxed or so chill? But in order to get there, you have to actually relax yourself, and there's a lot of self-care involved, and you might really value self-care. You are preparing, you're in preparation for a new beginning. It's really important for you to connect and listen to your body, and whenever you do that, you restore your energy. This is the moon phase. This is a phase in which the moon is getting closer to the sun, and it's almost getting to being in a conjunction. So this is a time when your identity is a little bit forward and your moon needs to catch up. Take a little bit of time to process things, like emotionally, maybe you need a day or two, maybe you need a break. It feels like the energy is very much liking to have its time. You might like to take your time in general. You would work really good into having your own routine or being the creator of your own schedule, because that way you know how much time you need to take. Also work well with time management, because you can, again, know when everyone kind of needs to be and where, because this is the preparation stages as well. So you might also be good at organizing the things a little bit ahead. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what would you want me to talk about next.